Hello, my friends. On the front line, the armed forces of Ukraine continue their counteroffensive, and there are new successes. But today, I want to start with a strong statement made by Zelenskyy. He said he would rather sign nothing and step down as president than give territory to Russia. I would walk away without any agreement rather than force my people to accept a bad one, Zelensky said in an interview with The Atlantic. Key points. He believes there is no greater victory for Trump than ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. For Trump's legacy, that would be number one. The most beneficial scenario for Trump would be achieving this before the midterm elections. Yes, he wants fewer deaths, but honestly, for him, it would also be a political victory. Zelensky expressed readiness for negotiations, but only under fair conditions, saying it must be a dignified and lasting peace, not a quick deal for political purposes. He is not against the idea of a referendum or elections, but only if it doesn't mean accepting a disadvantageous agreement or losing territory. The first step toward peace, he said, must be security guarantees from the United States and Europe to ensure that after a ceasefire, Ukraine will be protected from future aggression. Friends, be sure to share your thoughts on this in the comments. Now, let's move straight to the situation with the Ukrainian forces counteroffensive and begin with the settlement of Pokrovske in the Dnipropetrovsk region. In this direction, there is still no official confirmation of the liberation of Rostopil and Oleksiivka, but that's not surprising. The general staff never rushes announcements. At the same time, no secret is being revealed. Progress has already been reported by both Ukrainian fighters and Russian sources. And according to the location maps, the Ukrainian forces have advanced significantly here, about 6.5 kilometers, and the gray zone has expanded. However, according to the latest information, Ukrainian forces are already moving further toward the next settlements. So we are waiting for more updates, but that's not all. In the Huliaipole area, new gains have appeared over the past 24 hours. Reports say that the Ukrainian forces are advancing near the villages of Dobropillia, Varvarivka, and Solodke, which is located about 10 kilometers from the current confirmed front line. So, day by day, the movement continues. Of course, it may not be as fast as we would like, but it's clear that this is only the beginning. There are already some successes, and everything the Ukrainian forces are doing now could prevent Russian forces from completing their maneuver and encircling Huliaipole. Accordingly, Ukrainian forces are trying to move into the rear and disrupt the Russian operation. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians are only assaulting Stepove and carrying out shelling, but over the past 24 hours, there have been no changes. In the Kherson direction, the Russians are attempting to break through near the Antonivsky bridge and continue shelling the right bank. However, there have been no changes to the front line in this area. Now let's move to the situation along the border. In the Sumy direction, the lull continues, and Russian forces haven't carried out any new assaults. In the Kharkiv direction, this situation can be described as catastrophic. Russian officials have repeatedly stated that they would destroy Kharkiv in response to shelling of Belgorod. Today, reports are circulating about possible Russian plans regarding the city. The city is being deliberately turned into a zone of infrastructure collapse. The Russians are systematically striking at pain points: electricity, water supply, transport, and industry. As The Guardian writes, these attacks are calculated to psychologically break the population. Strikes on trains and residential buildings are meant to spread chaos. The world's reaction has been unequivocal, from direct accusations of terrorism on CNN to sharp condemnation from Emmanuel Macron. After civilian casualties during an attack on a passenger train, Western rhetoric became even harsher. According to Gazeta UI, citing European interest, the Kremlin has abandoned plans to capture Kharkiv due to a lack of resources and instead shifted to a strategy of forcing the population out. This reportedly involves creating an artificial dead zone within 30 kilometers of the border. Instead of occupying the city, Moscow has allegedly chosen the tactic of forming a sanitary desert in place of living neighborhoods. So it's evident that this plan is already being implemented. The situation remains extremely difficult, and it's clear that the strikes are unlikely to stop. Attacks continue not only on Kharkiv, but also on other Ukrainian cities. At the same time, the Ukrainian forces continue strikes on Belgorod, and reports mention another blackout there. A blackout in Belgorod. Electricity and heating have been cut off in residential buildings, and there are reports of residents being trapped in elevators across the city. Oh, friends, be sure to share your thoughts on this in the comments. In the Vovchansk area, the Russians continue the attacks, assaulting the outskirts of Vovchansk, Vovchansky Khutori, and Okhrimivka. However, they haven't managed to advance further, and over the past 24 hours, the front line has remained unchanged. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian forces are assaulting Novosinovo, but activity is minimal. There has been only one attack over the past day, and no breakthroughs have been recorded. In the Borova direction, the Russians are assaulting Novopavlivka, but they are unable to advance further. The Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks. In the Lyman direction, Russian forces are attacking the outskirts of the city. Fighting also continues for Stavky and in the forest near Drobosheva. However, so far the Russians haven't managed to move forward, and there have been no changes over the past 24 hours. In the Sloviansk direction, the Russians are attempting to break through near Zakitne and Dronivka. Attacks across the fields toward the area of Alexandrivka are also ongoing. However, so far, Russian forces haven't managed to straighten the front line here, and the fighting continues. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the Russians continue the attempts to advance within the city, but the Ukrainian forces are holding their defenses. Russian forces are also assaulting Plashiivka and Berostok, trying in effort to level the front line. However, they have made no gains, and over the past 24 hours, the front line has remained unchanged. In the Dobropillia direction, the Russians are pushing toward Torske, Sultan, Sofiivka, and fighting is ongoing for Novoshakhove. There is a possibility that the Ukrainian forces are conducting counterattacks here. As earlier, there were reports about the clearing of the village of Novy Donbass. For now, we are waiting for confirmation, but the front line remains unchanged. in the Pokrovsk direction. The Russians are assaulting Rodinsk and Hryshine and attempting to break through near Kotline and Molodetsk. The Ukrainian forces also report that Russian forces continue striking the highway toward Pavlograd using a mother drone that deploys FPV drones toward targets. The Russians continue attempts to establish fire control over the Pokrovsk-Pavlograd highway, especially the section beyond Mykolaiivka toward the Donetsk region. In particular, throughout the day, there was active use of FPV drones, which were most likely deployed into the above-mentioned areas from a so-called mother drone. In the Novopavlivka direction, the Russians continue attacks within the city, assaulting Filia and Ivanivka. However, there have been no changes along the front line here. Meanwhile, the new Minister of Defense, Fedorov, stated that Russia doesn't want peace and therefore the war continues.
The only one who does not want peace is Russia. That is why, in parallel, we must strengthen our defense in order to force the enemy to peace. At the meeting, I will present our vision and specific defense goals for this year. We are also appealing to all partners to increase sanctions pressure on Russia. It is important to restrict the activities of the Russian Shadow Fleet and to stop all Russian tankers around the world. Only in this way will the enemy no longer be able to sustain this war.
Friends, be sure to share your thoughts on this in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.